A good warm-up is a super important part of the training process. We got to make sure that our soft tissues and our joints and our muscles and our energy systems are primed and ready for the day's work. We're going to take a look today at a good sequence of how you should structure a warm-up in order to better prepare for your workout. So the first place we're going to look at is breathing. We take about 10,000 breaths a day. Imagine squatting improperly 10,000 times and understand how much your body would be in pain. Well, if we aren't breathing correctly, we're not going to necessarily be in pain, but we're not going to be working as efficiently as we possibly can be. So we're going to start off with looking at how do we develop good breathing patterns. So one thing you can do to start is just simply lay down on the floor, okay? And you're going to have one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And to breathe, the first start of breathing is learning how to use your diaphragm. That's your major respirational muscle here. So fully exhale and then move this hand before you move this hand. That's the first step. Once you have an understanding of how to do simple belly breaths, then we can expand the breathing technique to encompass thoracic breathing. So now thoracic breathing is learning how to breathe into your sides. So what I would do is take your hands and put them on the sides of your rib cage. The thumbs can be in the back, the fingers can be in front. And when you inhale, think about trying to expand your hands out with every inhale. Finally, the last kind of stage of breathing, or kind of a technique to help you breathe a little bit more deeply and become in a more relaxed state, is learning how to breathe actually through your back, okay? And what this is going to involve, as you do your belly breathing, your thoracic breathing, you're going to actually kind of let your pelvis relax, or at least bring it to neutral. So a lot of us are always cocked with an anteriorly tilted pelvis, which really prevents us from opening up our entire diaphragm down into the abdominal cavity. So what we're going to do is when we breathe in, just try and drop the back of your hips down a little bit and relax your hips to allow your belly to be drawn into the back. So again, it's going to look like this. It's very subtle. So once we've got an idea of how to breathe through the belly, how to breathe through our sides, and how to breathe through our back, what's the right sequence to prep the whole body for your workout? What we like to do here is a sympathetic breathing protocol to fire up our body's fight or flight response. And we can do that through breath manipulation. Again, standing with this time, take your hands and put them on your rib cage, thumbs in the back and the fingers in the front. And you're going to take 5 breaths, inhaling in through the nose at an 8-second count. So you'll inhale 8 seconds, etc., and then breathe out fast, etc., out fast, okay? And again, that's a way of getting the body's sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the fight or flight response, that will help get you ready for your workout. Now let's take a look at some good mobility. So once you've gotten your sympathetic breathing protocol done, then we have to think about how do we actually mobilize some of the soft tissues that we need in preparation for our workout, okay? There's really 3 different types of stretching. You have static stretching, dynamic stretching, and ballistic stretching. Pre-workout, we recommend dynamic stretching over static or ballistic. Ballistic is a little too explosive, and static deadens your body's stretch reflex. So a little note on the stretch reflex, it's basically that when your muscles become stretched, or when they feel like they're being stretched to end range, they want to reflexively snap back to protect the body from being damaged. Well, when we do a static stretch, like say for instance we're going to bend over and we're just going to sit here and hold, that stretch reflex slowly relaxes and the muscle doesn't become as responsive as it could. There's a notion of stiffness in a muscle. When a muscle is stiff, it can transmit force more thoroughly throughout the body. We want the muscle to be supple, but we also want it to be stiff. So dynamic stretching really gets that together. So to kind of help give us some context today to some appropriate mobility work for a particular movement, we're going to look at squat mobility. And we're going to look at two things that we can do to help improve our squat. So the first movement we're going to look at is the rocked back adductor stretch. That's at least what I like to call it. Okay, so your adductors are these muscles that are on the inside of your thighs. What we're going to do is we're going to sit into this position. The leg's going to kick out. Toe is going to be pointed straight forward. And we're going to kind of sink into the hip. Okay? And then we're going to rock back and forth into it. So we're always moving, allowing the muscle not to ever feel like it's being stretched constantly past its point of danger. Back and forth. Okay? Obviously, you repeat on the other side. 12 to 20 times is appropriate. The next movement we can look at is going to involve stretching the hip flexors, so the top of the thigh, but it's also going to help distract the joint capsule up in our hips. Okay? So the knee being down on the ground, there's force being applied up to the top in the femur and in the hip capsule. So we get a 2-for-1 on this. So all we're going to do, grab the post, grab your foot, pull the quad, and shift forward. Shift forward, and shift forward. Again, 12 times is plenty, both legs. So once we've gone through breathing, once we've gone through the appropriate mobility, it's time to integrate all that into some movement prep, okay? So again, breathing, mobility, integration. Because we're dealing with squat mobility, the final piece is actually squatting. So I love the goblet squat just because it's a really simple movement, but it also helps activate some of the upper back musculature that will be important in maintaining good postural awareness and positions while you squat, and it's safe, okay? So get into whatever your appropriate squat patterning is and your appropriate turnout. Some people like to turn out a little bit more. Some people have a little less turnout. But all we're going to do from here is we're going to have that implement right in front, and we're going to squat. Again, 10 to 20 times, just enough movement so that your brain becomes aware of what's going on and you feel like you've got the movement patterns ingrained in preparation for, say, heavy back squats, front squats, etc. So again, I hope this video has shed some light on some better methods, some better practices for instituting a good warm-up in your training. If you have any questions about warming up or anything with strength and conditioning, please email me at brian@steelworkstrength.com. Take care.